Why Easter matters to me more than ever before. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Luke 24:5. A personal testimony by a friend of mine, Hugh Welchel. And that's what we're going to do on this Passover day on The Master Entrepreneur. Hugh is a friend of mine, and I met him through our mutual connections, trying to help people like you who are entrepreneurs, who are seeking to be Jesus-following entrepreneurs. And Hugh is the founder and the CEO director of the Institute for Faith, Work, and Economics. And today I got this message from him, and I simply want to share it with you because it is a story also just for you. Hugh begins April 8th, 2020. I began a Sunday school class I taught several weeks ago on God's sovereignty and our responsibility with the following statement. You will never be able to walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil unless you believe in God's sovereignty. I believe that God is working out His master plan to restore the whole creation and all things, working for the good of those who love Him. And that's from Romans 8:28. At the epicenter of His plan is the event we will celebrate this coming Sunday, the resurrection of Jesus. This is the most significant event in history. Without the resurrection, nothing else matters. Paul describes the resurrection as the first fruits of those who've fallen asleep. And based on this historical fact, it is the believer's great hope that we too will be raised from the dead when Christ returns. This hope gives us great joy as we anticipate the future, but also offers us a compelling purpose to live for today. And now, before I get into the next paragraph of Hugh's story and testimony, just remember, the title of this program is, And You Too, the Death Angel Will Pass. Day after I taught the class on God's sovereignty, this belief was put to the test in my life when I was diagnosed with ALS. That's Lou Gehrig's disease. It is a disease with no real treatment and no cure. People diagnosed with ALS typically have a life expectancy of 2 to 5 years, while some only 6 months. Others live 20 years. The interesting thing is there is no way to know which group you will be in. We genuinely have to live one day at a time. You might think that this revelation has been a great challenge to my faith. Yeah, it has reinforced it. That is not to say that I'm excited about the turn my life has taken. I hate it. I hate the brokenness of this world now more than ever. But I've turned to 1 Corinthians 15 to study over Holy Week, as has become my tradition. And I'm deeply moved by the power of the resurrection and the fantastic way in which Paul ends this chapter. It seems like Paul would say, since there is a resurrection, look forward to this glorious future. Nope, he says something quite different. He says, always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that you labor in the Lord. And when you do, it's not in vain. Your work is not in vain? Why? Why not? Well, I love N.T. Wright's answer to this question, and I quote it in my book, How Then Should We Work? Here's what Professor Wright says. Because everything you do in the present, in the power of the Spirit and in union with Christ, everything that flows out of love and hope and grace and goodness, somehow will be a part of God's eventual kingdom. That, my friends, is the message of the resurrection. The resurrection is your new body, in which you will be gloriously, truly, wonderfully you. The resurrection means everything you've done in the present through your body, works of justice and mercy and love and hope, everything you have done in the goodness that God has given you, somehow in ways we don't understand, will be part of God's new creation. So, all our work matters to God and has eternal consequences because of what has happened on that first Easter and because of what will happen to all of us when we who are in Christ at the end of this age. Now, let's fix our eyes on Jesus, truly, as we say, the master entrepreneur who makes all things brand new. Well, I ended my Sunday school lesson talking about one of my favorite verses in the Bible, which harmonizes the two seemingly contradictory ideas of God's sovereignty and our responsibility. The author of the book of Hebrews writes, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, even scorned its shame, and then sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." Every morning we need to get up, lace up our shoes, and run the race as hard as we can. That is our responsibility. It is God who lays out the path on which we run. We have no control over that, as I was reminded 2 weeks ago. Well, the good news is that we can confidently run the race because Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, has already crossed the finish line, and he has defeated the power of sin and death. Jesus asked an essential question to Martha after learning about the death of Lazarus. "I'm the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die." Do you believe this? All of us must, at some point along our earthly journey, answer this question. If your answer to this question is yes, as mine is, it changes everything in this world and in the world to come. Now I know that the work God has called me to do in whatever time I have left has eternal importance because of the resurrection, because of that Sunday. I long to stand with God's people Sunday and acknowledge He is risen. He is risen indeed. A testimony from my friend Hugh Welcho.
He careth for you. He careth for you. When the worries and cares of your life seem to block out the rays of His light, never forget, never lose sight, for He careth for you, for He careth for you.
And thank you, Hugh, for that testimony and story. That's an encouragement all to us, not only for life, but as we go through, literally for many people in this CV crisis, the valley of the shadow of death. And we hope to fear no evil. It's Passover night, and those of you who know the tradition know that the Passover was because there was a terrible plague that came upon the Egyptians so that God could say, "Let my people go." And the oldest child was to be smited, died, when the death angel would come. But the Hebrews were told that it would not happen to them. The Israelites were told it'll be okay. If you just take a hyssop of blood and kind of paste it over the door. Strange thing to do. But they did it. And in doing that work, that simple work, the death angel passed over. And part of the story of Passover is that the death angel, the ultimate death angel, will pass over us too. Oh, we'll die, but the death angel will not get us. We will pass over into God's glory. Just something to think about on this Passover evening. And again, my name is Stan Houston. Remember me, this is the Master Entrepreneur Program brought to you by TCEN Global, the Christian Entrepreneur Network. And we thank you for your time and your attention. And we would appreciate hearing from you. StanHouston@gmail.com, StanHouston@gmail.com, TCENglobal.org, TCENglobal.org. And Hugh, we wish the best and blessings to you. Thank you for your story, for your testimony, for the work you have done, and indeed, the work you will continue to do. Best and blessings to us all. And truly, there is the shadow, and in some cases it is the shadow of evil, in some cases even the shadow of death, but we don't need to be afraid. Because God indeed is in control. We don't know what the future holds, but we certainly know who holds the future. All the best and blessings to you on this Passover evening. And we'll be back as the Passion Week continues and we learn more about how we can follow and be rescued and saved by the Master Entrepreneur. All the best, and bye for now.